thank you for doing this. Number one.
Yeah, I've been looking at some of the interviews done, and very good. They actually caught me off guard. I thought, wow, this is really cool. Because some
Yeah.
of them a little bit, tasteless and wasteless. That because everyone's doing stuff out there, and I'm kind of like, oh.
Uh,
And I've done some, and trying to encourage some of the younger people because they've asked me, Lee, we just discovered you because of the gorillas thing and all that kind of stuff. So it's
yeah.
given me a completely new audience. So, but your interviews are great, and the TDD,
Oh yeah.
that was good. That was good.
That took some doing. I'd not spoken to him for like 25 years.
Bloody hell!
I mean, he sent me emails and stuff, and we kept in touch. But I think he was a bit embarrassed about confronting. Is we're all been in the business long enough to know that we live in a kind of world of fantasy some of the time,
Yes.
and and some people, of which he is a good example, have
Mm.
kind of rewritten their history a little bit in their heads. And so I don't know how much of it you heard, but there was a
Oh,
point where he said, that he'd completely blanked out the idea that he decided not to use me for the second album, and somehow had invented this story that I said I wasn't available. I'm going, yeah, sure, I'm going to turn that down. You just sold 10 million records. Don't be ridiculous.
so
And
I knew the situation so well because at the time, I don't know if you remember Russell. He was like, we used to call him my cousin. He was like one of my best mates. He used to work at Sony, and he was promoting Terence to radio as one of the first black pluggers. He passed away in 2015,
oh, sad.
unfortunately. Him, then his wife first, then him. It was like the tragic year.
Oh,
But he was one of the first black. He used to actually work at PRT, plug-in imagination.
right, right, right.
We could, the telesales girls and all that. So he gave me such a great insight behind the scenes. But we'll talk about it after. But he was promoting Terence, Paul Johnson, and of course we knew Lily really well.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I remember going to the WAG Club, and I have somewhere a cassette tape machine, a copy of the album before it got mixed, before you guys came on.
Really?
I keep a lot of stuff,
Oh man, I would love to hear that shit.
I've got to. It's like this. If it still works, but I know I've got it somewhere. And Russell gave it to me, and I'd met Terence at the WAG Club, and then he did a show there. Then he did a show at the Town and Country, if I remember, and then he did one he was supporting Simple Minds or something, and then we saw
He
him.
did Heaven as well.
Was it at Heaven?
Yeah,
I saw him at Town and Country, and then he did another bit. We were,
yeah.
we'd follow him as he was getting up there and stuff like that. And then gradually, when he went to Los Angeles, that was it. It was like,
That happens a lot.
in the second album, ironically, my keyboard player works with me now, Mike Timothy, was
I know
one.
Mike. You played in
Yeah,
some of my stuff, right?
yeah, he played on the second album. He gigs with me all the time. He's around the corner.
Oh, say hello to him.
Yeah, he's coming to see the football with me on Sunday. He's going to
Is
be
he?
Christmases. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
He was here for my birthday. Let me switch this thing. 2 weeks, a week ago, we had a little barbecue and stuff. So he was here.
Mike, that's great.
Yeah, I'm
I'll send you
surrounded
my
by the
love.
musos in my area, all the bass
Yeah.
players, and they all come up here.
Oh, brilliant. So, of course, there's quite a lot of common things that we were involved with at the time. I used to go to the
Yeah.
WAG. Obviously I produced Terence and all that stuff. But even before all that, I mean,
Tina Turner, didn't you do Tina Turner?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Did that.
The BEF
The
thing.
BEF thing,
That's
which if
right.
I ever do any more BEF stuff, you've got to be on it, man.
Well, I got left out on a lot of stuff, but that's another story.
Ah,
I'm telling you, the UK. I got so much reaching out from America and Europe, and in the UK, it was like, it was like a different, and people in the States couldn't understand that. And I said, you know what? When you're British and you're black over here, you're second. You get the doormat. When you're American, you get the red carpet. You got a little twang in your accent, and you go and soul, they will jump on you. But
that's
when
right.
you're British and black here, because I've done my film Flashback to UK black music. I'm still finishing it now. I have got so many interviews of British black performers, DJs, producers, artists from the turn of the century, not that they're living, till now.
Right, right,
But
right.
I'm getting people's stories, their heart. And
Right,
so, people who know Lee know me from before Imagination. You know what I'm
right,
saying? I was around the scene way before Imagination. So everybody knew the real Lee. They all knew where I came from. But what
right,
happened was the industry had this thing, which kind of, and I saw it. And I found when I stepped out of the UK, we were just given such bigger berths. And in actual fact, it's how I've survived, to be quite honest with you.
is it?
Yeah.
Because the whole thing with when they were relaunching Tina and everything, and Roger Davis and all that, he got that. He's Australian, of course, and he
Mm.
was going. We should first establish ourselves in the UK,
Mm.
and then that will lead us back into the American market. So there's a bit of an inverse of that going on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And because they love the English accent and all that.
It was wicked what you did. It was really good.
Oh,
You were always
thanks,
very
man.
progressive, and I love that. And you were doing so many different diverse things. And I saw. You see, I was a fan of fans of. I used to go to so many gigs. I had to go to the venue. I saw
Yeah.
Tina at the
I saw Tina
Apollo.
at the venue. It was
Yeah,
amazing, wasn't it?
I used to
Doing
love.
doing
That's one of
doing
my favorite places.
doing the Proud Mary show, wasn't
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I saw Marvin Gaye there. I saw Spyro Gyro, Lee Ritner, Patti LaBelle. Because they had like you could eat and then you could dance and you could watch the show.
it? Yeah, it's cool, man.
It had such a great atmosphere. Right across the road from Victoria.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
We need that back or something like it, don't
we
we?
need that for live. We need that kind of intimate thing that it's really needed. I know the Boysdale are doing it, but we need something a little bit more sensual that has that spirit that people can come in, and if
Yeah.
they want to hear what they want to hear, they want to dance, they want to, it's everything's so restricted, obviously, because of now. But I used to love just going to the shows. When I grew up in Finsbury Park, so we used to go to the Rainbow, down the road. So I remember seeing Bob Marley there. One of my favorite all-time groups was War, and
Oh yeah, man.
yeah,
Me
War.
and baby brother.
Brother, me and Baby Slipping Into Darkness, or their
Yeah.
music, Galaxy, and I went to see their show twice. And on the second night of their show, they were doing "Why Can't We Be Friends?" And I jumped up and I just grabbed the mic because I
Did
knew
you?
they were bringing it around the audience. This is pre-Imagination Day, so I did that, and we saw Stevie Wonder there. The first
Shit.
concert I think I saw, and that was maybe 75 or something. He was doing the Innovisions tour, and in the audience was Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney, Madeleine Bell, who I became really good friends with, and it was just packed with every kind of artist.
Yeah, yeah.
And then me and my mate Russell, we bunked our way backstage to see Stevie, and he was behind the door with big headphones. And we met his manager, and we were kids, you know what I'm saying? But that was the drive. That was
Oh, amazing.
great times, really great times.
Yeah, yeah. And you were mates with all the Central Line dudes, weren't you? Yeah.
Well, yeah, Linton and I worked at a part-time because basically Central Line, Light the World. We always used to go to the Tottenham Royal. We used to go to the Bird's Nest. We go to all these clubs. We go to the one in Southgate, the Royalty. But we were more Bird's Nest was the one, and Crackers where we bumped off school on a Friday and go down there and change our uniforms and dress up. And George Powell, the DJ, the main DJ, lived around the corner from me. So I used to get free tickets to go in. And we'd go in there all grand, like we were stars. We'd go in and throw our jackets down and jump on the dance floor and start boogieing. And it was really cool. And so the Central Line guys, when they started to do gigs, we followed them. Light the World, we followed them. To the point where I remember seeing Light the World at the Victoria Palace, and at the Victoria Palace Theatre, they used to do 2 shows. Every artist that came in, I remember seeing Diana Ross do 2 shows. I remember seeing Aretha Franklin do 2 shows. And Aretha was supported by Light the World. And I saw
Right.
that show, and because I know why I remember it, because the first show they did, about 3 of the guys' mics fell. So literally they're
Oh,
singing something like, "I want to party in London town," and the mic just falls.
oh shit.
And I remember Kenny saying, I had to be there to see it, but it was a
Yeah,
memory.
man.
But it was a great posse because we'd follow each other. And Lynx, David Grant's.
I've just interviewed David actually. Yeah,
Okay, well, you know, he told about the record shop that his cousin had
I
across the
didn't know.
road, in Tottenham, and the Tottenham Road was here, and across the road was a record shop. Like the world, would rehearse upstairs, and there was a record shop there, and we all kind of, as I said, we all knew each other, but they all broke before Imagination. I was like the last one on the rung. Even Nat Augustine, who went to join Imagination after
Yeah, yeah.
Like the World,
I
he
know
played
that. Yeah.
guitar and brass. So I was like, you know, when's my turn going to happen? Because
Oh,
I was like a vaudevillian. I'd been doing it from so long,
yeah.
and it was just great to see that beginning of the '80s. So many North London, East London, South London, all the guys. Junior, he was singing with the like
Junior, yeah, good
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Yeah,
he was singing with the Lynx band,
yeah,
the
that's right.
Lynx, you know. So we were all kind of connected. So by the time we broke, it was like, bam, okay, I've been watching, observing, I know what we have to do.
But I mean, and Imagination. Well, I'll come on to that in a minute. I just want to stay with Central Line for a sec because
Mm,
they were kind of like our house band virtually. The guys who went on from that with BEF
okay.
on my first
Kamel
BEF
Hines.
album.
Kamel
Yeah,
Hines.
Kamel, and later on Tubbs and
Yeah,
all.
Tubbs, yeah.
And unfortunately passed away. He was
That's
part of
right.
the second
Yeah.
BEF band that we had, and so I've got a lot of connections with that scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were the go-to people for funk and soul,
Yeah.
really, from a session point of view. And so, yeah, I love all them guys, and I bump into
Don't
them.
get there. They don't get see it. That's why I decided to do my film Flashback this year, UK Black Music, because I felt that a lot of these, I just felt, I'll tell you a story. Basically, years ago when I was a kid, I used to go to Saturday morning pictures,
Yeah,
and I went up on stage and sang Baby Know That I Found You. I must have been nine,
love
10,
that song.
something.
Yeah.
And it was one of my favorite records. And then I was invited to Clem Curtis's 70th birthday party. And he found out I liked the song, so he called me up and we sang it together. It's on YouTube somewhere, and I had chills. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
chills because here I am, such a classic song singing together. And then later on, when I interviewed him, he said it was one of the first interviews for a documentary that he'd been interviewed for, and he said he never felt wanted, he didn't feel needed, he didn't feel supported by the industry, and on and on and on. I started hearing a lot of these stories. I'm thinking, are we all gonna all end up this way? And I thought, no, you know, I think it's time for somebody to actually uplift and actually highlight the
yeah.
positive, what everybody's contributed. And one of the things that is very, very important that people need to know about British black music is, for an example, with Imagination or any other British black act, every time, for example, in France, I have a huge audience. Every single time it's played, anytime it's performed, the money comes over to all these different institutions over here and helps finance it. So
Great.
we are supporting Britain, the UK,
Yeah,
all the musicians. So anytime we the Illusion, Music and Lights, Flashback, all of those get played every day all around the world. It comes back into PRS. They take their percentage,
yeah,
for years, and it helps this country. And not only me, Eddie Grant, Billy Ocean, all of the artists have had big success. Their money comes here
yeah.
before they even get it. Their money's taken out, the taxes and stuff, and that's what helps maintain. So our contribution to British black music is much more than people realize.
Here, here. And one thing, I've got a bit of a mission throughout all these interviews I've been doing, and it's something that's in the back of my mind, and it's coming more and more to the forefront since the Black Lives Matter
Mm,
thing happened. Is I want to establish or help to establish a highly visual legacy of the black music influence on electronic music,
mm, mm,
right? Because we were, with even from the start of the Human League, our main influence was Parliament Funkadelic,
yeah, mine
and
too. The whole
I,
look, yeah,
completely,
yeah.
and Bernie Worrell and all that kind of
Oh yeah,
weird, simplistic
yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
And,
I love all that stuff. And I don't think it really it's been appropriated by kind of the white European thing, basically.
it
And
has, it has.
it doesn't really get the credit it deserves. So, hence, talking to you as an artist, but not only that, as a representative of really a genre that I regard as electronic. You know, I mean that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Tony Swain, my producer and co-writer, was a genius,
Yeah,
and I call him was it a quiet genius,
yeah,
and it was the two of us really together. Obviously, Morgan Khan kind of stirred it and kind of pushed it to promote the first single, Body Talk. But you know, I remember having a piece of music on a cassette. I'd previously done a track called "Got to Be Good." I don't know if you know, I never heard that, and that was produced
no,
by
I didn't. I don't think I
that was
did.
by Trevor Horn. I was working with Trevor Horn.
Really?
Not a lot of people know that.
Right.
I was in the industry, and I was one of those kids that, you know, I'd go to knock on the door and say like, "Oh, I got a new track," and they go, "Yeah, you know, you're getting it there, da da da." Yeah, yeah, and kept going around. Then finally, I did an audition for a Eurovision demo thing. Me and Sonia Jones, session singer Sonia Jones, we
Right.
were starting, and we were doing these sessions for Trevor Horn, and he liked my voice.
Right.
A management company came involved. Anyway, we did this track, Got to Be Good, and Morgan Khan got to hear it and wanted to sign me. And they went in and tried to redo it and do this, and it was a huge, big production. So they said, you know what, we want to take it to America and put the horny horns on it or something or the
Yeah.
other. So they sent it all off and lost the master tape.
Oh my God.
They lost the master tape. I think I've got an acetate of a rough mix or something or a cassette somewhere. That's it. And I thought, well, that's the end. My career's ended. So to suffice me, Ellis, one of the directors of the company, said, "Look, you know, you know, great writer, you've got great ideas, da da da, your melodies and everything. Why don't you have a try at this particular song? I think it would be really cool." And they tried somebody to do this track. And then Tony, I never forget, he was sitting, he came over to me, he goes, "Oh, if you want to do something on it, it's great, but if you don't like it, I don't mind." Da, da, da. He was really humble. It's like, you know, you know, it may be, you may think it's crap, you know, and shit or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. You know, I said, okay, okay. And by this time, I'd been working with a lot of different groups. I was at one point in 3 bands at the same time. I was, I was cocky. I was really like, okay, yeah, you know, I'm a professional. You know, yeah, you know,
I'm the
this is
shit.
I'm the shit. 1980. I came prepared. You know, I came prepared. So I took it home, and I always say, I say it in my shows all the time because, you know, I thank God and I'm blessed for this that I managed to sit down on my mum's kitchen table and write the lyrics and the melody for Body Talk. And then went in the studio the next day, and Morgan and Tony had no idea what we were going to do. And I called Ashley in because I was doing some sessions with him. And I said, let's try and do like an Ashford and Simpson sort of thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interplay, because I love them.
Yeah,
And my favorite album at the time was Stay Free, Nobody Knows, and Found a Cure. I was into all that. So, and I loved a lot of jazz and in the riffs and things that we kind of put in, but also gave it the poptastic side of it
yes.
to you know, mix the two of it. So when we went in, they just didn't know what we were going to do. So we went in and we rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it. And they kept saying, "Aren't you going to record?" And I was saying, "No, no, 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 no. You know, still in control, you know." And all they were doing was pressing buttons, didn't know what we were going to do. So we said, "Look, I think you have it there." I said, "Okay." So we alternated certain voices because Ashley was singing high on certain bits and got them to come down lower. And then literally we did one take. We just stacked up the choruses. That was it. Boom. And that's it. And I walked out, great, I think it's great. Let's have a mix on it. Let's see what we're going to do. And then they pumped up the bass and compressed it and did what they did on that and then put it out on an acetate and white label. And, you know,
The clubs go for it, of course.
it was basically, it came in like it came from America. So every
Yeah,
single DJ thought that this track was from America for the
yeah.
whole of 1981 until finally in the middle of the summer when they decided to flip it and say, right, okay, this is a UK band. And we started to do PAs. Even when we did PAs, they all thought we were American. And then by that time we got Errol involved and stuff like that. But Tony was using a bass synth and he was
Which one
using
was it?
it was a moog, a mini
Yeah,
moog,
I thought
mini
so.
moog.
Yeah.
I've seen it recently and it's kind of decapitated. It was held up by string or whatever. It's like the, you know, and a mini moog, Oberheim, Matrix. Oh Christ, what we used to use the AMS machine for ding 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 ding
Yeah,
ding
yeah.
things, and loads of little primitive toys. For example, on our night dubbing album, we'd gone to Paradise Garage to do a show for Larry Levan, and he had heard Changes, and he loved it, and we were there, and I remember he was using tapes and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and we heard 45 minutes of Changes, 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 ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. And it was like dum, 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 and it was going on forever, and everybody was dancing, and I said, can we get a copy of this, to do the dub thing? And he said, yeah. So that started the night dubbing album
Yeah.
because he was going crazy. So he gave us that. So we thought, great to use So then the idea came, let's just do a dub album. And I think Human League did one, and
That's right.
The Thompson Twins did
That's
one,
right. That's right.
and that's been one of our most successful albums, the dub album. Even now,
Is it?
yeah, on the black market, on online, people, have been influenced heavily by it. But even tracks like Burning Up, like Frankie Knuckles would say, that was the original house record because of the piano, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And they said that was the beginning of house to them in Chicago.
Wow.
So yeah, oh yes, that is what you ask any of those guys. Like David Morales, who's a really good friend now, because we had a number one in 88, 89 with Instinctual with him
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
America. That broke David Morales. So I've always had like a very strong affinity as well with all the DJs. As time has gone by, I've had
Yeah.
that kind of
It's
thing.
interesting. Did you work with Arthur Baker at one point?
I did. I was a Backstreet Disciple, and
Oh, yeah.
yes, I was on the track. What's it called? Let there be love, love, love. Let there be love with Tada Vega, which was amazing to be in the studio with Tada Vega because she did. Oh God, was it? Hey baby, give it up for love. And
I love that.
that
Yeah.
had that na 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 na. It was the kind of like was it Steely Dan or one of those tracks, and it had that kind of chord sequence. It was and it was on that kind of organ thing, like a Billy Preston sort of stab on it. And she was great. And then Arthur got us to do another track called Inspiration, and she had a baby, and she was breastfeeding her baby while singing at the same
Now
time.
that's class.
I mean, in the studio. And Arthur is a bit naughty as well because he got me to do all the background vocals for all these other tracks. I'm still waiting for my money. But
Yeah. That's Arthur.
he put me in one studio and he said, "Oh, can you do it for this one and do it for that one and da 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 da." And
But he's
then
lovable, isn't he, Arthur? I think.
he is. I mean, I ended up doing stuff with Alison Limerick and Kate Sobrano, an Australian singer, if I remember rightly.
Right.
And then Daryl Pandy was on that track we did called Inspiration. And then after that, I started to write some stuff with Peter Rohrhofer. I had 2 hit records with him in America. It Gets Much Better and Sugar Pie Guy in the 90s with him. And I first worked with him on his label in Austria. So I
Right.
started to branch out a lot to work with other people outside that. And I'd worked mainly a lot of the underground DJs here, but the mainstream situation, it seemed a little bit difficult. I think there was just a stigma of how we represented ourselves, how we
Well,
looked or something.
we can't be
It's-
having we can't be having authentic black voices singing soul, can we?
no, oh
It's
no,
got to be what they got to be white in the late 80s.
oh
Seriously,
my
all
God.
that blue-eyed soul stuff. But anyway, I'm not. So a lot of that was really good as well. But I'm just saying,
Mm.
it's kind of looking back on it. I always had an attitude where I didn't see color really, but now looking back on it, I think a lot of people exploited that.
Well,
Um,
you know what it was. It was there was a period where, and this is one of the other facts that people don't realize. From 1981, 1983, 84, when Imagination broke internationally, and we were selling albums, not just singles, but albums. And the record companies, and I knew this from Lily, started to take a risk. They started saying, you know what, British black music, we have it here. We don't have to keep,
yeah, yeah,
importing it in. So they started to take the risk with more British black acts. So then you find people signing Jackie Graham, signing the Five Star, signing Loose Ends and stuff. They started to take. They wouldn't do it before, And if you notice in that period, it was abundantly it
yeah,
just
yeah.
came through. They took risks, Courtney Pine and all that sort of situation. It really, they put money, but then um, when it came to the female black singers, they were always, they get their deals, Carol Kenyon, and this one would get a deal, but they have the posters, but the support wasn't there. But if a white girl was singing the track,
Yeah.
it would be like a phenomenal, oh my God, wow,
Yeah.
woo. And up to now, I don't understand. I'm thinking, well, my girl there, she's just killing it.
I know.
And I'm thinking, but this white girl there, and I'm not seeing color. I'm just seeing, she just happens to be vanilla, but she's singing like Aretha. But the girl
Yeah.
that can really give you Aretha is still pushing this trolleys in the supermarket.
I know.
You
I
know.
know.
So there was a lot of I think there's been a lot of institutional racism.
There
Uh,
has.
and
There has.
we had to fight like Spandau and Duran would get their budgets for their videos, and I was always fighting and arguing, and I think that's why I've always had to be a self promoter in what I've done, because I didn't feel as if we were getting the dues that we should be getting. I've always
Yeah.
had to be, it's like, okay, we had to make it look like £1 million, even if it was 10 that we were getting,
Yeah.
because we represented in the community something very, very strong. And we were when we left here, we were like ambassadors around the world. And I still do, when I do loads of shows with Kool and the Gang and Open a Fire all the time. I'm doing one in August. And I did a tour, was it 5 years ago, with Kool and the Gang, Nile Rodgers, Sister Sledge, Open Fire, who's the other one? I can't remember. But we were all together like 20 days, and everybody thought I was an American band.
Right.
They all did, and I'm thinking, no, mate, I'm from North London, that's where I'm from, But I was very proud because I felt like how we're winning the cup, I felt, yeah, I'm the only one from London here and representing. And to me, that made so much of a difference,
Yeah.
And I grew up with listening to funky stuff and jungle boogie and Hollywood swinging and all that kind of music, And I remember going to see Sister Sledge at was it Frantic Atlantic Social with the Jimmy Castor Bunch and them, and oh my God, I tell you, any show that used to come over, you'd rush to see these live shows, and it gave you so much energy. It kind of prepared you for where we are now.
Exactly. So tell me about the. I just want to say before I carry on, my favorite imagination tune is Music and Lights. I just think it's a piece of beauty. I'm in my studio now, and I was listening to it probably for the first time outside a nightclub and on a good system, and it's so economical. The bit of, no, I'm not saying it sounds cheap. That's not what I mean. What I meant is everything is function, right? From a production point of view, it is. I mean,
yes.
the songwriting is beautiful, and that modulation of the chords in the chorus is so beautiful. Honestly, it's heartbreakingly beautiful. And I mean, I was always a big fan of Cameo, by the way, and there's a lot of stuff going on that you guys did which reminds me of that kind of similar thing, but in English. It definitely sounds English to me, you see.
Well, we were very much into what we did. And the only influence I would say we had on the first album maybe have been a little bit with Herb Alpert's Rise, a little bit.
Oh, I love that tune.
Yeah,
that's really relaxed.
Kind of, yeah, that was the kind of thing. But like for Music and Lights, especially lyrically, we were thinking of the old Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, "Dodie oh do," when
right,
kind of thing. And I was trying to take a riff, and the dada came from the Dodie oh do. I thought we can't say Dodie oh do. So I remember I was in my house, and we were. I wanted something that we could dance to, really, and basically move to. And as we were writing it, I was just doing it. I remember so well with Steve Jolly, and we were writing it, and we were just we're trying to, because I was always thinking visually as well, how it would sound, how it would look, because I thought, how it could be interpreted, and it's funny because with that song, we've some of our songs is kind of weird because we've had number ones outside of the UK, though over here they've been top 5, number 2,
Yeah.
Goombay Dance Band kept us off the charts with
Oh, damn it.
with Illusion #2. We were there for weeks with #2, and the Goombay Dance Band was #1. And I go on shows and I say, who the bloody hell brought the Goombay Dance?
Yeah, put your hands up.
Where are they? You know. So it was. I said, that's propaganda. That's propaganda. But you know, we had so much fun doing it, and and I remember, and I have got reels upstairs. I was talking to Tony about it. I used to have a quarter-inch machine, an Akai quarter-inch machine, half-inch quarter-inch machine at home or something like that. Anyway, we'd be in the studio, and me being silly, you know, we're editing, everything's going to the half-inch, then going to the quarter-inch, and then all this tape would be wasted. And I thought, no, you can't waste that. So I sit there and I put it on a reel and say, no, I'm keeping it. No, you never know what's on it.
It's expensive shit.
I know. I'd take it home. And I said, where's all that tape gone? Lee's got it. And I'd have all this tape, you know. And, you know, I'm going, it's like, I don't know, it's some of it in my loft now. But it's
that's funny. I remember we had a thing with M17. We said, there's all this tape being wasted and stuff. And it's like so expensive. Why don't we chop it up into, like, you know, inch long bits and sell it to the fans as pop scraps, we were going to call it. It's a funny idea.
I like that. Good. I mean, that would have been good. But
you could do it. You've got loads of stuff.
Yeah, I've got loads of stuff. Oh my God, you know, so many quarter-inch machines, and you know, oh my, it was. I still have a 16 track here, actually, E16 down there.
Right.
And I recently bought one of these Voice Live things where it's got effects on it and stuff. But and I've got a Roland. What have I got here now? I've got a Roland 06 with new effects and all sorts of.
Right. Interesting. This. So, like, I've always been fascinated with the different approaches that singers and artists take. Like, you know, Tina never played an instrument in her life. She just came into the studio, did her thing, left. Didn't participate in saying, oh, I like this, I don't like this. And then there's people like you who are totally integrated into the production and the sound of what you're doing. You treat that as part of your brand, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, for example, and I remember it so well. I talk about this because it was a high point. We had done the first album, and every single track, near enough, was a single and successful. So Good, So Right, Burning Up, Tell Me Don't My Love was #1, I think, in Canada. In and Out of Love was a single. Then you had Flashback, and then Body Talk.
Yeah.
So all of those were successful. It was like our own off the wall, and I was thinking, we can't surpass this. This is no way.
Yeah.
And we were starting to get the band together, and we'd go to different territories. There you go.
Sorry. 1 sec. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
We go to different territories, and everybody had seen the Top of the Pops. So they said, please, we want you to dress like this, and we duplicate the same thing, please. Yeah. So we'd be following each single and da-da-da. Anyway, by the time we got to do the second album, which is always a nervous situation, I was like, I've done what I've done. I want to move on. I want to change. You know, I want to sound like Luther or something like that. And we did in the heat of the night. I remember because we, you know, the record company was always very tight with times and things. So we'd end up having to do 2 tracks in one day. You know,
Yeah.
And I always stack a lot of my vocals. You know, I mean, Arthur Baker said I'd have 127 tracks. Lee John's got 170 harmony tracks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I always have these big things. I still do a lot of stacking.
Yeah, I love all that stuff.
I do that. And so we were doing Illusion, and I remember for some reason, the verse bits, I just would not sing it the way people wanted me to sing it. I wanted to sound, you know, it's like, could it be a picture in my mind? Never sure exactly what I'll find. Something like that, you know, it's like everyone's going, where is Lee? What's going on? He's gone.
Oh my God.
Come back. He's gone. And then a friend of mine,
gone off piste.
We've gone off completely, you know. And then I remember a friend of mine came, and it was about midnight or something like that, and went outside and just took some air, because by this time we'd done all the background vocals and spun them in and all this kind of stuff. And the Illusion bit was at the end because we didn't have enough space on the tape. And so because I'd said to Tony, that must be the intro. I was very much into intros, like Flashback.
Yeah, me too. What happened to intros, by the way?
That's, you know, the first bit of it, like Flashback. I'll give you a story. Um, I wanted no vocals. I didn't, sorry, no vocals. I didn't want any music, sorry.
Right.
And so they said, no, but you've got to have a beat. How are you going to come in? You know what I'm saying? I can do it. I can do it. Don't. He said, Leee, come on, be serious. I said, okay, yeah, but you know, I want just my voice. So the compromise was, okay, we'll just have a little bit of the synth. So you come in, you're in key,
Yeah,
and so we're starting up. So that will come in and da 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 da. I said, because intros are so important for the radio. So when you hear
yeah,
it, then you bam, flashback. So it's right there. So
yeah,
for me, the intros were, and Tony always listened. He didn't like say, oh, that's a crap idea or something. If he didn't like anything, he'd normally say, as we were doing it, you know,
yeah.
he says, and he'd say it in a funny way, you know, like, oh God, well, we had one track called, what's it called again? Halfway to Paradise, which became So Good, So Right, I think, or something like that. And I didn't like the title, and he didn't like the title, and he sounds like, oh, we're going to a whole, oh, we're talking about going to an old people's home or something like that. That's what it sounded like we're talking
God's
about.
waiting room.
Where's waiting room? Paradise Hotel. So, but with Illusion, that, you know, I said I wanted a phaser. I'd heard one of those, like you talk about Funkadelic and all
Yeah,
those.
yeah, yeah.
We were into all those weird things, and I wanted to have some. I mentioned it, and it stuck in his head, and they put a sound on that, and then they chopped the ending and stuck it at the beginning. So there was a lot of that going on, and even the original version of Heat of the Night was different. We have a version of it which we're going to put out because we're going to have a 40th anniversary album
Oh, great.
next year. It's going to have about 17 albums. There's going to be some
Oh,
tracks you've
shit.
never heard. We did a track called The Last Time, and we've got Kenny G. He played sax, and there's some fantastic mixes that he's just blowing, and it's
Right,
like 6 7 minutes. So we're going to give you all that, and there's different versions of it. So, and it's really heavy. It was a big R&B tune in America.
right,
Here it just top 40 or something, but it was really, and Nick Martinelli produced that,
right.
and we had a great. So this was after the Swain and Jolly days, but we had a great time with Nick Martinelli in Philadelphia. That was real great.
Fantastic. So tell us about your. I mean, obviously I've done some research, and you've done well all around the world. But what were your main kind of territories?
Well, France, Italy was very, very good for us, and because France is very underestimated. France is the Benelux territories. It's Switzerland. It's Africa. You know, henceforth here. I was in Nigeria 3 years doing the Fela Kuti Festival,
Is
which
that
was,
right?
yeah, which was very interesting,
Oh,
very interesting thing. It was in his shrine, and it was at midnight, packed with people, jam. It was like a non-stop jam, and the system would be going down because
electricity
the
supply.
electricity just went. There's no air conditioning. It was all fans, and it was like literally you'd faint. And people
Really?
are there from the morning till night. And I was using Femi Kute's band, and but they kept changing. One drummer says, "I want to play with Leee John." No, get off! I want to play. And then so you've learnt it with one, and you come back, and someone else is playing. It was
Wow.
madness. It was really madness. But I had a good time, and I worked with. I was helping to tutor a young group at the. There's a park that used to be a Victoria. I think it's Victoria Park. It was a prison, and they do. I think for young students and stuff like that. So I actually had to work with these guys to learn body talk and illusion, and which is a privilege. And we've kept in contact. They're young brass players, and they were so respectful, really, really respectful. And because I'm also a patron for SOS Children,
Yeah.
I was also visiting some of the kids around there. So I mean, with France, it's given me, God, we've gone Cote d'Ivoire or Angola, Mozambique. We were there in February last year before the lockdown. Brazil and all of South America, and
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
since I did the Gorillas thing, the audience from them is like it's just gone
Massive. Yeah.
crazy, massive.
So how
So
did you get involved with the Gorillas, by the way?
oh well, Damon, lives down the road. He's got his
Oh, well,
studio
there you go.
goes around the corner. So I thought I'd met him somewhere, and we kept saying we must have. But he was a lovely guy, and it was just like meeting a friend.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then they love the sound, they love the sounds, imagination,
yeah,
and they wanted certain qualities, because I have different tones in my voice.
yeah,
So
of course.
they were like, we were writing and jamming and stuff, and then all of a sudden I did a little, ah, and they said, that's it, let's go there. That's it. It's like, can you go that way? And I thought, okay, I know what you want. But it was great. It was very easy, very laid back. And the live show, we did 3 live shows in a what do you call it, lockdown period in December, I think, and it was streamed 1 million viewers a piece.
Holy shit! Were
Europe,
they paying for that?
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my god!
yeah. It was very good. It was Europe, America, and the Far East. We did like I was there for Thursday, Friday, because we had to stay all together.
Yeah.
Friday was like a rehearsal, and then they filmed it, and then the next day we did the show in the morning for was it America? I can't remember who it was. And then the night we did one at close to midnight. Then in the next day we did one in the evening on the Sunday, and it was a huge, huge band and all that. It was like a compilation of all these different artists. It was wicked. I've never done anything like that, and they're doing some more shows. So hopefully I'll be with them doing a few
Oh yeah,
shows.
that's fantastic, man.
So it's been good.
Have you done have you done musical theatre? You have, haven't you?
I have, I have. I was the emperor in the in the Hot Mikado. Oh God, I played one of the earliest before Imagination. I played Brer Nancy, the Spider Man, and my musical conductor was Chris Cameron.
Oh, Chris, I know Chris.
Yeah,
He played.
and
He did some stuff with me. Yeah,
yeah, and Chris was
with
was
parents
George
actually.
Michael as well.
Yeah.
So Chris, I spoke to him recently. He's done his back in, so he
Oh
can't
no.
lift keyboards and stuff. But Chris was with me in the early days. It's weird how you become full circle.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I knew Chris's wife, Anise Peters, because her and her sister were twins, and they were like the backing singers for Billy Ocean in the early days, the
right.
Oceanettes. But I've done theatre, I've done film. As a lot of people say, yes, I did Doctor Who,
Yes.
and which was an experience. It was a great experience, except that all my scenes were at the end of the day. So I'd be getting in costume and learning all my lines and trying to get into character from the morning, and then they wouldn't call me till 5 o'clock.
Oh, that's boring. That's
Yeah,
the BBC in it all
yeah,
over. It's like Top of the Pops, right?
yeah. Oh God, you're there
Waiting around for
waiting.
hours and hours.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, because you should be a big theatre star. I mean, obviously you trained as an actor, didn't you?
Well, I went to Anna Shears for a while.
In New York, right?
In New York, I went to where did I go again? What's it called? Oh my goodness. Oh my, I forgot. It was Worldwide Productions when I was in New York. My parents split, and I was living in New York for 5 years. And then I went to this. It was a thing where you sung, you sat, you danced, you acted. They trained you, and you did all that kind of stuff. And I think that's why it fine tuned me. It gave me that
Yes.
determination. And I believe in the same place that I was in, there was Irene Cara and Stephanie Mills, from what I gathered. I think they went to the same theatre thing. And I came back over here to live with my mum. And then I went to Anna Shears, which was more earthy, much more the
Oh,
community. Everybody came
yeah,
from
yeah,
Ivory. You had the Spandau guys and all that going there, and everybody from EastEnders. So everyone was like that. All right, yeah, yeah, all like that. So we were doing that, and then occasionally you go into that sort of action.
yeah, of course.
So it was a wide aspect, and then I was doing a theatre, the Hugh Norris Strolling Players, which my sister was involved in, and at that time she said, if you want your pocket money, you have to come to this drama group. So I said, okay. So we went, and then there was a band there called the Sun Valley Serenaders, and that was the start. I would say the real start of me playing with bands, because they did steel band, calypso, reggae, soul, funk, jazz, everything, and it was like wow. And we'd go and do the bingo clubs, bingo halls, which was 2,000 people a
Yeah,
time
yeah, yeah.
in Chelsea, in Peckham Bingo. It's like Peckham Bingo. It was a good one. All the old ladies was giving me drinks.
Ah,
It was really good. I do 3 sets, and they go, "Hello, love. How are you? What do you like? I like a barley wine, please. Are you old enough to drink that? Yes, I am." And my mates would come, and they'd go to the bar and they'd order up, put it on him, put it on him, and then the main guy would say, "Oh, I'm looking at your tab here, you know. I'm not going to get much tonight. You know, it was those days. And one of the things I remember, especially in the George Canning pub in Brixton, which I'm very proud of, on Effra Road, before I could go up on the stage, I had to set the sound for the band. So, and I had to come with my
Really?
own mic. I had to come with my own mic, my, was it OHO amp as
Right.
well. I had to bring for my mic and stuff like that. I think they went off with it actually. Come to think of it, I think when Imagination started, they just said, "Oh, we don't need it anymore." I said, "Okay." I had that. I had to do the monitors, and before I could get on the stage to sing, I had to make sure their sound was good. And the MD Matthew, he'd be like playing, playing, and he's looking up and going, "No, you're not coming on yet." He'd do that. I'd be frustrated, and I'm doing the sound and stuff. But it was a great way of learning everything, you know, being an all-rounder and understanding the technical side of things. So you know, when it's time for you to be the grand diva, you know what's happening in the back there, you know, and
So,
it's
yeah, sorry to interrupt. The thing I've always thought about, not just imagination, but your solo career and everything, is firstly you get on with everyone. Secondly, which is a good thing to do. Secondly, you are born to do it. You know, the way I view it is like you are a performer.
mm,
You know, you love performing. It's clear from your body language and your attitude that
yeah,
this is what you live for.
oh
And
yeah,
you know, in if you look back at the kind of history of show business, you are like from almost this isn't an insult. It's almost like you're a character from a bygone age of
oh
people
yeah.
just want to work continuously
But
and
I
hone
say
their
to people,
craft.
I say to people, I'm a vaudevillian. That's why I
There
say
you go. I've nailed it then, haven't I?
yeah, a vaudevillian because I've learned so much. You know, I was doing a jazz album in France in Rochefort, and I remember that period. It was 2003, 4. I went and I just went back in time, and I just started. I just studied everyone. I went to Bessie Smith and Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Satchmo, and I just studied them all. Billie Holiday and all the greats, Miles Davis. I just consumed it before I even did the album. But in doing that, you viewed all their, you know,
Yes.
you viewed all their performances. So that's all absorbed inside of me. And then you come into the 60s and you've got the Motown artists and Atlantic artists, and then you've got the funk situation. And once you absorb all of that stuff, it stays in you. It doesn't go. You got a button that says, okay, what we doing now? You go, all right, we're going to go to that. So I find, um, you know, and I find there's an evolution of music coming around. But what I try to do, especially with the younger ones now, is to try and inspire them to
Yes.
be prepared, to be as individual as you can. And, you know, because obviously it's very hard out there, it's a different situation, different platform,
Mhm.
and try to be as unique as you can in doing what you do, you know. And I've been doing a few of these, you know, what do you call it? Classes where you know they want to talk about
Yeah.
you know, life in industry and advice and things like that. I've done
Yeah.
them over Zooms and stuff like that. And because I believe it's important that I've learned so much. I don't want to just keep it all inside to myself.
There
Let me
you go.
throw it out there. Let me give it back. It's important that you know you can use me as a reference of vessels. You know, because I'm still learning. That's the thing. I'm still learning. I'm still educating myself. There's you know I've got a keyboard thing there. I still want to learn it. You know, I've got the I haven't had time.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
You don't need manuals, mate. Never read them. Never read a manual. That's
I
my
know.
view.
Go on YouTube, and this is telling you what to do now. So, but it's been a very interesting situation in the band scenario. Me doing stage, recently being portrayed in the Leroy's thing. I'm going to give him a plug. My best mate Leroy's book,
Oh, well, cool.
Life as a Cop. I don't know if you saw the Small Axe series.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
But I've heard about it. I've not got around to
yeah.
seeing it.
Steve McQueen. He's done this great
Oh, yeah.
series
People were
about.
raving about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in episode 3, it's called Red, White, and Blue, and it's about John Boyega plays my best mate Leroy Logan, and Tyrone Huntley plays me.
Yay.
Yeah. So I've been finally been portrayed on the screen.
Well, I've been portrayed on in Tina the musical. Somebody
Oh
played me
really?
as
Oh
a character.
fantastic! Excellent. How did you feel?
Completely weird. It's nothing like me, by the way. They
Yeah.
didn't consult me when they were designing it and everything. And it's like somehow they've conflated me as some for the purpose of the narrative. I'm like some kind of goth or something. I'm wearing like a stripy t-shirt and I've got like curtain hair. And I'm going, I never dressed like that. And it's like the scene. I'm like the comedy guy,
Oh, I see.
like I'm like the porter in Macbeth, right? And it's like this comedy scene. I'm in the studio. I'm in the studio, and it's like Tina comes in, and my character goes. Basically, it's like trick Northerner, right? So I go, hey up, Tina. She says, where's the band? You know, and I'm going, the band's in that there thing over there. It's that, the Fairlight. And, and it's like, the audience are laughing. You may have heard it on from that band, Evan 17, and all the audience laugh. And I'm going, what are you laughing at? You bastards. Anyway,
Oh, God. Oh.
anyway, it's nice to have one's name in lights,
It is.
in
I
a
mean,
way.
the thing was that the best thing about that was the actress Nadine, who's actually, I think, I can't remember her last name again, but she plays my mum because she was very influential in Leroy going to the police force. Because my mum was like a police liaison officer
Right.
in the 70s and 80s, and if kids got into trouble and they didn't want to speak to the police because there was a lot of tension, they would, she had a picture on the wall and they'd wake her up in the middle of the night and the police would
Yeah.
pick her up, bring her down there to get their names, to have to sort them out, get their parents and all that kind of stuff. So she was really involved in it. In the film, the young lady playing it was very, very good, and she's Junior Giscombe's niece, I think.
Oh,
So another
yeah.
connection, And they asked me about. Well, we went down to the set, and there's a routine that John Boyega and Tyrone had to do. So I actually showed John and the director producer what I was doing. So they said, "Oh, could we film you?" So they actually filmed me. And then when you
Oh,
see the film, I forgot all about it. And when I filmed, they were doing it. I'm thinking, how did they know this routine? And then they went to the reception and said, "Did you like what we did?" And I thought, "Oh my God, that was what I showed you." So I didn't get credit for it, but never mind.
no, yeah,
But it
no,
was
I
super
didn't either.
cool.
Yeah,
It's interesting. And it's a moment. I mean, it's Leroy's moment, but we've had interesting lives because he went from where he was going to be a scientist to becoming a policeman, and I wanted to be a journalist for a minute because I just love research. I love
yeah,
history.
yeah.
I like knowing, and how we can change the world. And we always had that in our minds. So I thought, well, I want to do it with music, and he's going to do it, through this side. And he's progressed so far. He's involved in his charities. I've been involved in my charities, and he's brought me into some of his stuff. So our lives have been kind of parallel. I'm godfather to his kids, and best man at his wedding, and all that kind of stuff. So, and people always ask, how do we know each other? Because we're so completely diverse. And I say I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, good.
But it's great, and the good thing is even better. Like I was talking about Russell Fraser, who was one of the first pluggers and promoters at Sony. He came from our school. So did Leroy. And there's about 15 other black guys, of our age group now who did so well. And that's the kind of thing I feel that the youngsters need to know that,
They do.
this is the kind of situation. We're not all, whatever the media tries to portray you. It's not like all of a sudden this happened because of
Yeah,
BLM. We've been out there doing it. A friend of mine, Junior Douglas, he owns this huge wholesale retail imports and exports stuff from Jamaica to the UK. And he's been doing so well, especially through COVID. He's been so well, and I can go on and on and on. But these are all friends of mine, and school friends who I'm still in contact with. They come to my house and stuff. So I'm very lucky that way. That when all the heydays of the music and the lights and the whatever, all that kind of stuff was happening in the 80s, I had a very grounded home life.
yes.
It was a very grounded home life. If we went out to get pissed or after a show, that was fine. but when you come home,
Yeah. You're home. Yeah.
my sister would be saying, I remember coming back from Top of the Pops once, and we'd done a whole, it was a long bloody day.
Yeah.
And I came home, and I'm saying to her, oh, she says, all right, that's fine. Go and put the kettle on then. And I'm like, I'm sitting there looking like that.
Darling, I'm a star.
Exactly, darling. And I'm thinking, while you're there, she's saying, and I'm thinking, it's like we want us to have that moment to say, do you know who I am? And then we're going, you must be, and it's the same thing. My sister on St. Lucia, and she'd been checking me out on Facebook and all this kind of stuff. She's seen me all around the world, and da 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 da. And she said, you've got to come home and you've got to rest. So as soon as I get to St. Lucia, I'm getting calls here, there, and everything, da 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 da. And she says, don't they think that your sister has food at her home? Don't they think you got champagne at home? Because I love my champagne. So he said, you are staying here. He says, tomorrow you're staying here. If they want to come, tell them your sister has food.
Yeah.
And I had to obey her.
Yeah.
I couldn't say,
Don't mess with that. No.
Yeah, and then and everybody came to the house. But that was nice. That was, I like that kind of thing because it's grounding. It's very, very grounding. I was one of those artists that I was around the drugs and all that, but I never did it. I was always getting, my champagne, my red wine.
Yeah.
And I say it straight. Because I came from an urban community, as they call it, where, people would be drinking Special Brew and Red Stripe and smoking a joint, but I never smoked.
Yeah.
And I had mates of mine that said, you're trying to develop yourself, don't smoke. But they'd be smoking in front of me, But I had them, they'd lash me down if I was.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, we're nearing the end now. It's been fantastic. It's flown by. So I ask everybody like some kind of stupid smash hits type questions. So, what's your favorite film?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. But I will say, musical-wise, I mean, I love The Godfather. Oh, God, I love The Godfather. But I'd say, because it could have been any culture or any, I'll just say, basically West Side Story.
You love West Side Story.
West Side Story. I think it could have been any group, minority group, whether it would be black or Latin or what have you.
Romeo and Juliet, isn't it?
The arrangement, I've bought all the different box sets and behind the scenes and Jerome Robbins and things and who sang originally on this and I just love West Side Story and the choreography and
were you trained as a dancer?
No. I've had great choreographers. Heather Seymour who works with Arlene Phillips. She came in the early days and went through stuff, and she was very and this sounds very Robin Williams, Farsi, Madonna. She was very good at that and how to wind the body and stuff, which I could do anyway. But it was I was cool. Ashley was kind of there, and Errol was a little bit once you watch the old videos. But she was great, and it was the time when a lot of groups had started out, like there were 10 of them, 15 of them, and they were shrinking down, and we became like the focal point of just being 3. And though Ashley was a great bass player and Errol was a fantastic drummer, and especially they cut it when we did it live, because that was one of the main things, performing live. That was one of the things. And but they still said, you've got to come down front and you need to do some choreography and all that kind of stuff. So it was good. It's been a while since I've actually been told, okay, you need to do this and that, and I kind of stopped it because I dance anyway on stage. I do a big warm-up thing. You've seen me at the festivals.
Yeah.
I'm like a train, just getting ready to get myself. I don't want to get focused and get in the zone. And for me, it's about the musicians, and I like the interplay with the musicians. For me, it's so important when we do a live show that I'm feeling the things, and I sometimes go off, and my musicians know where I'm going to go, and that's what I like. So because I feel every audience is different, and you've got to really play to that. And
exactly.
People don't do that much.
Stagecraft.
Yeah. They just do on your march, get set, go, and then that's it. But for me, I like to make it fresh each time.
Great. Favorite book, or one of them?
Wow. One of them, I would say, that immediately comes to attention is oh my goodness, it was called "Death Be Not Proud" by John Gunther, and it was written in the 1940s, I believe, and it was about a young guy, and it was given to me by my grandmother, and it was about a young guy who had a brain tumor, and his experiences while he was going through the. He eventually did pass away, but it was all that he was going through in his mind and stuff like that, and through his
Wow.
father's eyes. But check that out, Death Be Not Proud.
Deep. That sounds
Yes,
very deep.
it was a
Yeah.
very heavy book, and
Yeah.
um,
Wow. Okay. A kind of epiphanal moment, a moment that changed you in your life, or a kind of like a fork in the road, and you went, or something like that.
um,
A
oh,
realization, perhaps.
a realization. Oh my goodness
I know
gracious.
it's tough, but you know.
It's a tough one, but I can only say when you have Don Cornelius and you've gone on Soul Train, which Soul Train was the big show in
Yeah,
America,
yeah,
and Imagination were on it, and we were doing Changes in Illusion, and we went on there, and if you watch me on there dancing, I'm like, pow, I'm giving you pow,
yeah.
pow, I'm taking the bat, and I'm lashing your head, I'm in America, man, I'm on TV, I'm gonna give you, bum, 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 bum. And I'm watching myself, and then bloody hell. But then the beginning of it, Don Cornelius says, and there was a reason why, this is the group that Marvin Gaye gives his stamp of approval.
Wow,
Isn't
that'll
that a great
that'll do it.
introduction? Isn't that a great introduction?
That'll do
And,
it.
and Marvin Gaye the show was I think dedicated to Marvin. He was there, and I actually went into his dressing room to ask him about a song that he'd done with Diana Ross. It was on a Pops We Love You compilation album
Yeah.
with Stevie and all these other artists, and I wanted to know why he didn't release it as a single. So he said to me he couldn't remember the song. So he said, "Could you sing it to me?" So I'm singing to Marvin Gaye.
Oh, yeah, that's good, isn't it?
So those moments, there's some magical. I've had really wonderful moments in my career that being mad and crazy as I am, I've just gone into and doing stuff, and it's been a whim sometimes, but it's been inspiring, spiritual, And as the door goes, could you hold on 1 second?
Yeah, yeah, sure,
Put that on pause. 1 second.
absolutely.
I think that's my engineer. Hold on. It was my engineer.
Ah,
It was.
ah,
Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Postman.
got a
Hey,
present.
hey, Mr. Postman. So there you go.
Good.
That's my.
Okay, so next is who's your favorite other musical artist or composer or whatever?
Oh, wow. Phew.
I know that's really tough. There's so many, and
So
I'd
many.
struggle to answer this, but there's got to be one that was like a central,
Oh,
perhaps
wow.
inspiration or something.
There was, I mean, um, in every era, there's been one. A lot of the ones I like are dead.
Me
you
too.
know, loads of them are gone now. But I would say, growing up, Stevie Wonder, Songs in the
Yeah,
Key of Life, Inner Visions, Talking
yeah,
Book,
yeah.
Where I'm Coming From. Those albums were so inspiring,
I,
and it was like a legacy of work and songs, and each one of them. You know.
but what I think is interesting about that is that those albums show a real sensitivity and,
Yeah.
and delicacy. So it's not just about being a hit star or a Motown star or
Mhm.
writing hits. This is a real artistic impression
Oh,
and taking risks.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
sometimes it went possibly a bit too far, like the Secret Life
Secret
of
Life of
Plants,
Flance. We said it same time.
which was some of that was a bit shit, I thought. But
Ah, well,
I know I
it's
don't
supposed to be a
very often
film.
say that. About,
It's supposed to be a film, wasn't it?
was it?
Yeah, that's why he did it. It was supposed to be background music to the film, but I think he's got Sarita going. Oh, I wish I'd come back as a flower, or something like that, or something.
Yes,
You know.
but some of that was not very good actually. But that a bit, but beyond that, I think he's got a
Yeah.
bulletproof legacy.
Space Babylon. Remember that one? Space Babylon. That was on
Yes.
Space Babylon. It was like a down, 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 down,
Oh
kind
yeah,
of thing.
it's weird.
Space Babylon. Space. Why I remember that I don't know, but you know that's me.
It's
Space Babylon.
strange, strange. Yeah.
Space.
Um. What? Right. So, ambition unfulfilled yet?
Woo! Oh my goodness. Well, I've done tap dancing, so that's.
We'll get tick.
I used to ice skate, but I can't do it now. Well, I've been doing a lot of film production over the last decade, and so that's an interesting factor. I haven't yet written the book because
Ah.
I'm waiting to finish the series. So I think that's the next thing to do the book. I think because there's so many. When I was talking about it yesterday, I thought I've got to give it 3 volumes. I think because the
Yeah.
amount of stuff I know, and the different lives I've led in my career, even before imagination. I always think that the career before imagination is more important than during the, you know.
Right.
But then I've got stories about a lot of the artists that I met, like yourself. You know, you meet so many different people in your career,
Yeah.
and you know the good and the bad. But I'm not one to, you know, kiss and tell. That's not what it's
No.
about. I'm very much about the environment we grew up in, the people that were influential. Funny stories. There are
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
funny stories.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got some definite funny stories about some of the artists that I met, and also when I was, as I said, I was working for part time, myself and Russell as junior journalists for West Indian World,
Right.
and we met the brothers Johnston.
Oh, right. Cool.
Yeah, we got to interview the brothers. Could you believe that? We're in this hotel in Chelsea interviewing the bloody brothers Johnson, Leee Johnson.
So,
Yeah, I mean, you know, and we were like, you know, lying about our ages, of course, you know,
yeah.
school. And it was like a summer job. It was them. We met, who else we met? We met Denise Williams. That's right. She just had the free album.
Lovely.
Natalie Cole, we'd met.
Yeah.
She'd just done Capital. She'd just done the first album, Natalie. I think it was cool. And so I was pushed into all these really unusual experiences before I even went out there. And I'd still be doing my little gigs on a Saturday and stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
had those visions of all these artists about what they were doing. And you know what? You could probably be doing that too.
That's right. Are you are you a good writer?
Well, if you look here, I don't know how good it is, but there's about 3 or 4. During the pandemic, I've gone back to using a thing called the
Paper.
pencil.
Wow.
Because, to be honest with you, all my dates got changed, and I had to keep using an eraser to erase them out. And instead of typing, I got fed up of that. But I do write a lot. A lot of the stuff I've done hasn't really probably seen the light of day. I'm always writing anecdotes or storylines or lyrics, of course. And you know, I think there is and besides a biography, I think there is a novel within me.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
I did attempt to try to do a children's novel about my cat, and because I find animals are really interesting,
Yeah.
very interesting creatures, he's around the corner there and he always comes around to check out what's going on if he hears someone
Right.
talking. But I find them really interesting. And there's a young lady who's a fantastic cartoonist in Belgium, and she used to do an imagination cartoon for us for the fan club years ago. She occasionally throws it out. But I'd started to do, with one of my other cats, I started to do a little, say, children's idea. Because I did a photographic book for SOS Children for South Africa.
Right.
And I started writing, I took all the pictures and we made it into a book, and it's online, and all the money goes to the charity.
Right.
And I started to write little anecdotes, little things for that. And I was thinking of continuing doing that, but it's the time. It's just the time.
Time. Yeah. I did it. I did my autobiography. I just sat down and hammered it out during lockdown, the first
Oh,
lockdown.
really?
Yeah, I did it, and
How
and
did
just
you
then
find it?
um I thought it was going to be much harder than it was.
Hmm.
But the hardest thing about it for me was was organizing it and just remembering shit.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, because I met so many people and I didn't really keep diaries or anything. So it's like I was always having to kind of ask people if they could fill in the.
Was I pissed that night?
Well, I'm talking about the whole of the 80s, basically. And no, anyway, so I actually, which is quite common apparently. I was, it's coming out on Little Brown, which is part of Hachette, which is the biggest, one
Oh,
of the biggest
cool. Excellent.
publishers, and it's coming out next year. And I overwrote by about. I was commissioned to do 90,000 words. I did about 135 in the end.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
and this is volume one, right? So up to 93, and I don't know. And now we're just getting into the sub editing bit, which I'm scared about, because then they rip it apart and
Oh,
go,
yeah,
"This
yeah.
doesn't work. This doesn't work. This needs to be rewritten." I didn't want to use a ghostwriter. I don't know if you were thinking about doing that.
No, I mean that has. I mean, I when I did the Reborn show, I started writing chapters. Like, this
Yeah,
chapter would be about that. This chapter would be that. Da da da. And then I thought maybe I'll do like a Dirk Bogarde, because he did like 3 different books for his biography. So I thought that would probably be interesting, because my life in New York was very, very interesting at a young age,
yeah,
and also Britain in the early '60s as a kid growing up, in the environment we were in North London, Finsbury Park. It was a
that's
very
fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a very multicultural area there. And the primary school I went to was one of the first mixed schools.
right.
I remember they did a film on the Battle of Hastings in 1966 and all that. There's a lot of historical stuff that was happening in North London at the time. And Arsenal were around the corner from my
Yeah,
primary school, Charlie George and all those footballers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's, when you start talking about, I'm sure it happened to you, you start talking about all that, there's so much stuff. And then also my family, my mother's mother came from a family of 13 brothers and sisters. Obviously there was no radio or TV. So, so they, so they came from, I think, Miku in St. Lucia, and then some went to Panama, some went to South America, some went to, they went all over. So there's all stories in that as well.
I think you should definitely do it. It sounds a lot more interesting than my growing up. No, I'm serious. But the other thing that I found, which you might find interesting, is when I was examining my growing up, what I realised was, because we came from a very poor family in Sheffield,
Mm.
the whole zeitgeist of Sheffield was pride in who you were and the making of, I don't know, where steel or cutlery or whatever, is a maker's town, and you do things and it's like you get on with it and you don't moan. But there's a kind of innate, what I realise now is there's an innate lack of confidence
Mm.
in challenging, is like almost like not for the likes of me to run a company, or
Mm.
and that I only kind of acknowledged in myself when I was writing the autobiography. So I thought, fucking hell. It took me a long while to get over that, probably till my 30s, Because you put on a face, don't you, for
Oh
entertainment?
yes, oh yes. I mean, it was. I must honestly say that it took me into the '90s to actually discover who Leee John was about.
Yeah,
'Cause I was there for everybody and trying to balance the bass player and a drummer who they were like da 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 da.
you're just getting
And
on with it, right?
yeah, and I was always having to be the one balancing it, and keeping the ship steady. And I found that I was doing so much of that that I was losing me, and I was trying to be there for
I know
everybody.
exactly
I
what
was
you
trying to be
mean.
there for everybody, and as you were saying, I know everyone. I'm just like, oh, that's the head, And I was doing that, and then I discovered the Celestine Prophecy. I started to read the Celestine
Right.
Prophecy, and I just picked it up one day, and I had it on a cassette, the audio tapes, and I was on a train. I remember very distinctly from London to Manchester, and I was meeting everybody up there, and I was trying to find out who I was. Why do people like me, or what is it when I go on stage? What is this thing, Um, and then I decided to. I found out about different energies and a lot of spiritual situations and things like. I got really involved in all that, and which then made me feel much more comfortable, because you got to love yourself, then you can love others.
That's
And that's an important situation. I think it's all to do with that. And when you're a man, you're not supposed to be. You got to be hardened, and you got to be like this, and like you got to give that persona. And also at the same time, I was trying. I always believe there has to be some kind of balance. Even if you're going off the wall here, you've got to come back to some kind of balance in your equilibrium. And I just felt that I was
You were a pleaser. You're a people pleaser.
yeah, and I was lashing myself too much. I was writing these lyrics. I remember at one point where I was persecuting myself writing it, but not knowing psychologically. I'm
Wow.
writing about myself. I'm thinking, why are you like this? Why did it, da 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 da, And I'm thinking, hold on a second. And then all of a sudden I thought, no, as they say in America, you're okay, kid.
Yeah, yeah,
Put
yeah,
it together, you're okay. And it does, I think it happens with a lot of artists, and I've spoken to a lot of other artists as well. And I always stress the word artist as opposed to celebrity,
yes,
because I think there's a complete difference
totally
in the
different.
situation. Some artists have gone into the celebrity, which is great for them. And occasionally we have to put our foot in it to actually do it. But I believe in the art of what we do.
Me too.
And that to me that's kept me grounded and very, so I'm consistently learning. I'm doing different things and stuff like that, and discovering, as the world is evolving technically,
Yeah,
politically, and how I can, with what little I have, I can try and influence, and that situation, and give back.
yeah.
So
Yeah, you need to come and talk to my students because I teach songwriting, uh,
yeah,
commercial
I'd love to.
songwriting, production, and production. Yeah, production and the business side of things, but
Oh
also
yeah,
the
yeah,
creativity bit.
yeah, I'd
And
love
the
to.
biggest thing that 20 somethings lack at the moment generally is a sense of what the hell am I going to do and how am I going to make some money out of this business.
Yeah,
And there's such
absolutely.
talent. Um, so I would love you to come and talk. I'll talk to you
Yeah, off the record.
offline
Off the record.
about
I mean,
this. But I'd love you
I'm
to come and
doing that,
talk to me.
yeah, because I was it not Arts Ed? One of the other schools I've done it. I did it for a school in Belgium. I did it for one in Switzerland, funnily enough.
Right, right, right.
And they ask you the strangest questions. And I did one here, and it was really weird. This girl, her appearance was great. She looked confident, but she wasn't. It was all a front.
Yeah, and
And
there's a lot of that now.
it's a lot of fun because you can look fantastic online. You can make yourself look great. Your music can sound kind of perfect, but then when you break it all down and you've got to do it live and perform, you're okay for 3 minutes. But can I see you for 45 minutes or an
Yeah,
hour?
yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing about maintaining and sustaining. And that's where a lot of, I find, the younger artists cannot sustain. I'm not going to just sit there and watch some rapper going on and on and on and on and on. And, what else are you giving me?
Yeah,
Saying how you're expressing, how are you giving it across, how are you going to, what is, we've heard that, but then, okay, to make your stagecraft look good and stuff like that,
exactly. I
you
mean,
know.
I used the example recently of Lil Nas X,
Yes.
who's doing all this really interesting and controversial stuff with
Oh
you,
gosh, yeah. So on
and
TV, I was like,
well,
wow.
somewhat controversial.
My goddaughters were saying, "Oh, you used to be like him." He's got. I said, "I'm nothing like him at all."
No, no, no,
Nothing
no.
like him at all.
But but the interesting thing is, he comes across like he's actually an artist. He's almost like a performance artist.
He is. He is. He is. I thought
And,
he was pole
and
dancing the other time, but
yeah, not
but
sure
he,
about the sexual congress with the devil, but anyway,
no, no,
no.
no,
No.
no.
On that bombshell, I think
Actually, it's
we'll
about Bond. I'm actually doing a track with them as well. The girls Bond.
the what?
The girl, the violin girls
Oh
Bond.
right, really? Are you?
Yeah, I've actually done, which is one of my musical directors I do work with jazz and stuff. He kept saying to me, "You love Scheherazade, Rimsky-Korsakov. I
Yeah,
love it."
yeah.
Da, ba, ba, da, 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 da. And I remember coming into school in the primary school, and it used to be our marching into the class music, and it stayed with me. and I just fell in love with this piece. And I was speaking to the girls, and they've played a section of the.
Oh, I love that.
Then I'm doing my little thing on it, but I've written a whole song
Have you?
around the arrangement on a loop on a kind of a section and called it Land of a Thousand Nights.
Lovely.
If you remember, I think the whole story of Scheherazade was based on Aladdin, the 40 Thieves. That's the whole thing about it. That's the whole story about it.
Yeah,
So,
interesting.
yeah.
I did. I recently talked to David McCalmont.
Okay.
Do you know
Okay.
David?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
He,
I do.
he's such an interesting guy.
He's from Guyana, and I interviewed him for Flashback,
Did you?
and he was speaking, but his memories of what we knew are different because he came from Guyana at a certain time.
Right.
So he said he'd missed a lot of what we had done.
Right. Really.
Yeah.
I love his work with Craig Armstrong and
Yes. Yes. It's very interesting. It's very
beautiful. Anyway,
interesting. I went to see him at the Leicester Square Theatre, which was very good.
right, cool. All right, man, gotta go. That's it. We will see each other on stage, no doubt, soon. I bet you.
Yes,
I think you're
definitely.
playing in some festivals that we're doing this summer.
I am. I'm doing Chill Fest. Are you in Chill Fest?
I can't
And
remember.
I'm maybe doing some Let's Rock.
Yeah, Let's Rock. We're doing a few of those.
They're
Yeah.
getting me on that. I'm doing. I'm at the Boys Dome next week. I'm also doing the Jazz Cafe in September.
Cool.
We're celebrating 40 years of imagination next year, but we're kind of starting it from this
You're
year.
such a pro.
Yeah. So right there, mate, I'm a
Let's
big wheels keep on
let's
turning.
throw that link into the
That's right.
outro.
Let's throw that in. 40 years, baby. Don't forget it. 40 years.
All right, man. Love you. I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Take
All
care.
right.
God bless.
Bye.